Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Rockies Daily. I'm your host, Scott Ayers, where we're talking all things Colorado Rockies. Thanks so much for stopping by. Whether it's your first time or your last time, I am glad you are here. And let's talk about the Colorado Rockies, and let's talk about Tyler Freeman. I've talked about Tyler Freeman at length on this show for a variety of different reasons, but for today, it looks a little bit different. We found out that he got some anti-inflammatory injections into his lower back because he is dealing with a bit of a back injury. Now, we're expecting him to return and make kind of that appearance in spring training next week. But the reason I want to touch on it is, although right now it says there's minor risk of this becoming a big deal, it is something I think the Rockies and fans need to have their eyes on. Freeman dealt with some back issues last season, and there is just something about those lingering back issues that is a cause for concern. And some of that might be too, we're staring at like truly the worst version of it in Chris Bryant and the back injuries that he has had. But they just don't go away overnight, and they tend to linger. And so for Freeman, this is definitely one of those things where you hope he gets a little time in spring training, but this is not someone that needs to rush back by any means. And again, it sounds like it's minor, and it sounds like overall it should be okay. It's just, I would just keep an eye on it. I would just keep an eye on it because back issues are a scary thing, man. And for the Rockies, the last thing they need is to lose a player, before a season even gets started. And so just something to note. And it's, one of the many reasons why the Rockies have these mini utility players is in case a guy goes down. Again, I think Freeman will be fine for when the season starts, but it just kind of popped up on our radar that he got that injection. And so it would obviously hurt the Rockies a lot if something more came of it, just because I think Freeman just provides a lot for this team, both in depth of all over the field, and he's just one of the better bats that the Rockies have right now. So that is just something to look at as we kind of approach the season. We're still over a month away, so plenty of time for recovery, plenty of time for him to come back. But just felt like it was important to note of, hey, I don't like hearing that Tyler Freeman's dealing with something. So should be back next week, and we'll get a better idea of what that actually looks like from there. But let's move on to RJ Pettit. And another guy we've talked about at times, the first pick in the Rule 5 draft, the Rockies got this behemoth of a pitcher. And I'm really interested to see what Pettit can become in this bullpen. We talked about the bullpen just the other day and what we think it can be for the Colorado Rockies. And it can sneakily be maybe the best position group on the entire team. There's a lot of really great arms, a lot of talent in the bullpen. And Pettit is another name that you throw in there that could be successful and that the Rockies could have at their disposal, which is great. He's still a little bit younger. He towers at 6'8". And one of the exciting things is he uses a slider and a changeup, and that slider is pretty nasty. A lot of the time it's going to be blown away, which is great. Anything hanging over the middle turns into a bit of a meatball factory. But for the Rockies to acquire a reliever that had a lot of success at the minor league level last year, had a 2.44 ERA across double and AAA, 2.78 ERA in AAA. It's just another move that when it happened at the time, I was really, really happy about it. And you look at just his frame on the mound during spring training, and the guy just looks like an absolute behemoth. And mound presence, what does that actually do for you? Who really knows? But I just think that the Rockies acquiring another arm and adding it to Alan Leichman's disposal has been really encouraging. And look, this is a little off topic, but we got more from about Alan Leichman and about kind of the different changes. Chase Dolander, and maybe this is something that we talk about at length for another show, but just talked about how it's completely different under Leichman and the rest of this staff, which also makes you wonder, what did it look like last year? And what did it look like in years prior? Because we've just heard so much of this theme of, man, things look different. Man, we're excited. Man, this is refreshing, on and on. And I think for fans, it's really encouraging to hear, but it also begs to ask the question of what was happening last season? What was going on? And what were the overall thoughts of last year's staff? I think there's an obvious reason why Bud Black is no longer with the team, why there's been a massive overhaul with everyone in this staff, but it's just an interesting note that it's really important to note the excitement, but I also just, man, you don't want to linger in the past, but what the hell was going on? That's my question, but still, refreshing to hear about Alan Leichman, refreshing to hear about, just a lot of guys fired up to be pitching for the Rockies, which that sentence has only been said like 3 times in human history. And so that has to be worth something. Guys are fired up this year, even with them knowing, hey, it's gonna be a bit of an uphill battle. It just kind of goes into everything that we've talked about, encouraging, and RJ Pettit is part of that plan. So exciting stuff for just the world of pitching for the Colorado Rockies, and I'm really excited what Leichman can do with it. And then we're going to end today's show with 2 different topics, one of which is a broadcast change that, man, I don't necessarily know if I have an opinion yet on it, but according to Chicago Sun-Times, the MLB broadcast will no longer show the balls and strikes in the on-strike zone box. So they'll still have the strike zone box, but they're not going to say whether a pitch is a ball or a strike. The reason for this is they just don't want coaching staffs or managers or whoever to exploit this when challenging pitches, because that's one of the big changes. There's obviously going to be that the ability to challenge balls and strikes. And it's just one of the many changes that baseball has had over the years, and this is now a change for the fan experience, is that strike zone. And so it is all very interesting, and the automated ball and strikes, it's all just kind of a new, interesting approach. I think we all have had our grievances in games where, this is an over-exaggeration. A pitch is, just squarely down the middle, and, the ump just kind of stares at the pitch like, nah, that thing was outside the zone, buddy. I don't know what you're talking about. And so it is a nice change to hold some of these umps accountable. There are some great umps in Major League Baseball, but there are also some umps who have just a bad ego and are also not great at their job. And so that is obviously a refreshing change, but I am curious how this will all look at the Major League level. We've seen it at different levels of baseball. Now we're getting a lot more of it at the Major League level. The only reason why I mention that is there's just a lot of egos. There's a lot of egos across the board. We've had some pitchers say, I'm not going to challenge balls and strikes. It's not my job. Okay, sounds good, man. Then just go out there and start slinging. But yeah, it's just another change to baseball to try to keep fan engagement high in a time where, baseball's already made a lot of changes with the pitch clock. So, yeah, I wish I had more of an opinion that I could share with you all today, because I know that's what you've been dying for. What does the Rockies Daily guy think about the strike zone box? Don't really have an opinion yet until we actually see what we're looking at, and I'm hoping over the spring we get a better idea, and then we can come back. We can either sing praises, we can dance in the comments, thrilled about the great decision of Rob Manfred, or we can just be pissed. regardless, that's my hope. We can come together in unity about this strike zone box. But I did find it kind of interesting that it is just a significant change, that it's just a broadcast change across the board, not just like for an individual network. So something to note as you're watching spring training games that I know you all will be doing. And of course, when the season actually gets started, that is one of the major changes just to be on the lookout for. And then finally, let's talk about it. There is a new rankings for top 100 prospects. We've talked about some different top prospect rankings. We talked about MLBs, where they had Holiday pretty high at one point in the top 20, then top 25. Charlie Condon, top 70. Then we talked about CBS's, and CBS very low on the Rockies. And that went into a topic where it was just like, man, what do the Rockies need to do to get a little bit of respect? Because it just felt like a slap in the face from CBS, where they just talked about Charlie Condon. He's a disappointment. And Ethan Holiday, we're just not so sure about this 18-year-old kid. It just felt weird. It just felt like a weird rankings and an easy way to dogpile on the Colorado Rockies. Well, now Fangraph has given their top 100 rankings, and they've got Ethan Holiday at number 47, Charlie Condon at number 67, which is around the exact same spot as MLB's rankings. And then Roldy Brito, number 99, the outfielder, number 8. He's 18 years old, will be 19 in a couple months. Had a really, really successful 2025. And he's just seen as, a prospect that has great speed, maybe underrated power. Fangraph calls him the super utility prospect. And this is more in line with the MLB's rankings. This is more in line of kind of what we're thinking of where Charlie Condon lies. I get why Ethan Holiday, he's probably going to be just jumping up and down because of his youth, that they're still trying to get a pulse on where he actually may lie. I think Ethan Holiday is going to be great, though. I'm not too worried if Holiday was ranked at 10 or at CBS's 97. I think Holiday is a great prospect and is hopefully going to be great for the Colorado Rockies. But for Brito, this could be a really sweet success story for the Rockies, because he was an international signing in 2024. Kind of a guy you just take a chance on, and has really excelled. Played well in 2025, and is now at a point where he's getting recognition from a much more broader standpoint in view. He's projected to be a guy that gets called up in 2028, so still a few years away. But an important success story to note for the Colorado Rockies, at least so far. And the Rockies have been good at this in the past, of just finding guys, developing, and then having them make it to the major league level. And here now you've got 3 prospects in the top 100. And the reason why that's of note is you obviously want to see like 6 or 7. But something what we always talk about is just that opportunity to have those chips to play with, both in trade, in the ability to just build your organization. But it's just so important to have just more at your disposal. You never want to have less. You always want to have more. And to have prospects, multiple prospects now that are coveted prospects, is important and will be important for the growth and the foundation of the Colorado Rockies. So it was just interesting to see. It was a nice change from what I'd mentioned was the CBS graphics, but ultimately, just like any other ranking of prospects, how much does it truly matter? What will really matter is how these guys develop, how they play at the minor league level. What are they getting in terms of help from their hitting coaches, for their swing and everything like that. So there's so much more to it than just saying, a trivial ranking where you can pat yourself on the back and say, we did it, we got another guy. Reality, though, we just want to see more development and to see these guys be productive at some point at the major league level. So, with that, you just finished another episode of Rockies Daily. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please leave a like, comment down below. If there's certain stories you want me to talk about, there's different topics that we can get riled up about. Angry in the comments section. Leave a comment down below. Hit that subscribe button. Share with your friends, your family, anyone you know who loves the Colorado Rockies. But with that, I'm Scott Ayers. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.